Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Earful Conversation Pod. This is your host, Keisha Partridge, and today is a special episode because it's my birthday. It's my birthday. And on that note, let's dive right into the question of the day. The question from the family dinner edition is: how would you rate your day 1 to 10 and why? I wanted to do this question because today is a special day for me. It's my birthday, my 33rd birthday to be exact. And so far, I would rate it a 10. Everything is perfect. I feel completely full. I've been showed so much love from those closest to me and people that I barely know, and I just really, really appreciate it. I've received phone calls, text messages, DMs, posts on all of my social medias. It's just amazing. Just to go into a little bit of a new thing I would like to start doing on my channel, which is going to be called Story Time. I'm just going to just share something personal that happened to me throughout the day, throughout the week, something just really recent. And if you would like to hit me up, give feedback about it, great. So because it's my birthday, my story time for today is going to be about my son. I did not expect anything from him. He just turned 11 last week. We're a week apart. He was whispering about things for the last couple of weeks, but I didn't think anything of it. But he got a ride to the store while I've been busy working, doing this podcast and, selling the cards and everything with my business and with my career as well. Didn't notice anything. Woke up to see cupcakes, flowers, card, and just different things that I enjoy, which was made it even more personable and sweet. Used his own gift card to do it. So that's my story time of the day. It just surprises me as kids get older, just the amount of compassion and love and things that they've just picked up. It's just reassurance that he's growing up and he's moving in the right direction, and it just knocked me on my feet, and I'm just, like I said before, extremely full. So that's why I rate my day a 10. So that's the story time of the day. I imagine that it's going to be even more difficult conversations when I talk about stories. Like I have another one on the top of my head that happened recently, but since it's my birthday and we're gonna keep it positive today, I'd rather talk about that. So next time, expect a little bit more serious and thought-provoking story time, but this one is just super sweet about my young king in the making. Today, like I promised on the last episode, we're going to have a special guest. So tune in for that, and we're going to continue the conversation about family structure. So stay tuned and think about your answer of how would you rate your day from 1 to 10 and why. I want to welcome my special guest, Mr. Roy Nelson. How are you today?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. So, I do a question of the day. So I want to ask you that question. And the question is, how would you rate your day from 1 to 10 and why?
Hmm. I would rate my day. I would say I had about 7. I would say a
And
7
why?
because it was pretty busy, but it wasn't overwhelming. So, and I want to stay as positive as possible. I don't want to go anything below a 5. So I would say a
Okay.
7.
Sounds good. So, just to get into our topic is family structure. So I have you on just to tell a little bit about your family structure. So we're gonna dive into that right now. So let's talk about family and what it means to you, and you can share a little bit about your upbringing.
Okay. So, what family means to me? I think family is the backbone of who you are. I think that's where you get most of your qualities and characteristics just because of being around who you're around and picking up on how they go about their day. And you kind of take those things until you kind of come into your own and make your own way in the world. What was the second part of your question?
That's perfect. I think that
Okay.
that's perfect. Okay. So when I answered the question, like for me, what I think family is, um, because my family is super close, so I equate it with spending time, just sharing in the highs and the lows of your life, um, unconditional love, support, and like you said, guidance,
Hmm.
and direction of who you'll become. So we kind of said the same thing. So
Sweet. Who's counting?
let's dive in more to like what your experience was and exactly your family structure. So I grew up in a two-parent household, and I have an older sister. So what about yourself?
I grew up in a primarily single mother household. My dad was in the home for the, I would say about the first 5 or 6 years of my life, but he was always involved. He made sure that we all were involved. I have in the household, I had my older brother and my younger sister, and my dad also had a daughter that is the same age as my older brother. So we in the home we were all pretty close. So yeah, primarily lived with my mom.
Okay, so within your household, who did you talk to the most? Like, who did you bond with and have most conversations with as a kid, your younger
As
days?
as a kid, I talked most in the house with my brother. We shared a bedroom for pretty much all of our life until he moved out. So the first 16 years of our life, we shared a room. So we are we were kind of involved in the same things. We were both played sports and things. So that was the one that I connected with the most.
So you said for the first 16 years. So when he did move out, as a teenager, who were you having conversations with?
I really didn't talk to too much of anybody in the house. Like I was more so involved with my friends. I mean, I talked to my mom more so than my sister. Me and my sister weren't that close when we were in the house together, like before I graduated. So I would talk to my mom, and then, but for the most part, I was just with my friends.
So who kind of led those conversations? Like you said, you would talk to your mom. Like who led those conversations? Did your mom like initiate a lot of that?
I would say she did. I was pretty much to myself, so I would be in my room. But if she caught me downstairs or something, she spark up conversation. Um, yeah, I would say that she led most of it.
So do you think there were some maybe like missed opportunities for conversations?
It all depends on how you look at it, because I mean, I didn't really have much that I felt I needed to talk to her about, like at that time in my life. But and like it's kind of hazy, like that point in my life, so I don't really remember what was going on that I would really need to have those conversations about. Because I think it was just more so having relatability with my peers more so than like having conversation with my mom.
Okay, good point. So who did you said your dad lived in the home for the first 5 years. So when he moved out, and I know you said he was involved still, who had those conversations about manhood and like respect and love and things like that?
Well, my dad, he drilled respect in us from early on. We always talked about respect, respecting others. He was huge on that. So anytime, like I got more in trouble for disrespecting somebody than I did anything else. So yeah, he was a big proponent in that. My mom also did as well. But when it comes to talking about manhood, um, I guess it would more so come from like my grandpa. Well, because just their view of manhood was, taking care of your mom, taking care of your sister, make sure they're okay, like being like that hard, that manly figure. Um, but like I was more so of just an observer, so I just observed kind of what my dad did, what my uncles did. But as far as more like direct conversations of manhood, I would say I didn't have those until I was maybe early 20s when I started to like I had conversations with my pastor. He's one that was a big part of like the man that I've become today. So I would say those conversations were more so had in my later years than my early years as far as manhood goes.
Okay. So you said that you're more so an observer. So you had representation of what a man is supposed to look like around you, correct?
Yeah, I mean, we had male figures. Like my mom, she had a husband for a brief time, and he was in the house, so he was there, but it really wasn't like that positive male figure that like I would look to as to what a man is. He was just a man in the house that he like did stuff like work on cars and little stuff like that. But as far as like,
Okay, we had to pay some bills. So you were talking about how you were talking about you were observing like men that were around you and they weren't all necessarily positive male role models, but um you did have some sort of representation around you.
I always had men around me in some aspect. Like my mom had a husband that for a brief moment that she dated for many years, and so he was around basically from when my dad left the house until just before I graduated, so probably around that 15, 16 year range. So he was there, but it was more so of just like what I kind of picked up from him was just like, working on cars and stuff of that nature. But outside of that, it really wasn't much like positive influence, I would say.
Okay.
But yeah, I basically had men around me all the time.
So, do you know much about like your parents' upbringing?
Uh, I've had those conversations, later on in life. My mom, she she was in she had she lived with her mom and she was married, so they always had she always had like a male figure in the house, but it was kind of a rocky upbringing for her. It kind of shaped the way that she raised us, of how protective she was of us, and things like that. My dad, his dad was never around, so it was just him and his twin brother with their mom, and I know they were a lot like how uh, raised us was just big on respect. She was a military woman, so she drilled respect into them. But outside of that, I don't really know much about how my dad was raised.
So, did someone else like share their upbringing with you, or were those conversations that you had with your parents?
I had those conversations with my parents. Like my mom, she really started to like after I went to college and moved back home. She really started to open up a little bit and tell me about some of those darker things that went on in her upbringing. So we had those kind of conversations as I matured because she wanted to protect us from feeling the way that she felt about certain individuals. So she made sure that we didn't have uh, that level of this heinous or hate against anybody else. She just felt more comfortable sharing that with us, or with me at least. I can't speak for my siblings, but sharing those things with me as I got a little older and a little bit more mature.
What about your relationship with your siblings? What were the conversations like as a kid? Like, what were you discussing? Like, how did you build your bond with your siblings? I know your brother, you said you guys shared a room, so that kind of forced you guys to bond. But what were those conversations like?
I can't really think of anything too deep. Like we were both, like I said before, we were both athletic, so we played basketball, so we always had that in common. We argued a lot. I mean, we're two young men sharing a living space, so we got on each other's nerves more so me going getting on his nerves than anything. Um, so yeah, I can't think of anything really too deep that we talked about. My sister, we're just goofy. So when we started to really develop a more healthy relationship as we got older, we're just goofy and we are so much alike that having both of us in the same house at that point where we really discovered ourselves was probably a headache for my mom. But we were just goofy and clowned a lot. And as she got older and more mature, we had like more conversations about life as far as like what she can expect in adulthood and how to carry yourself, how to move, and stuff like that. So
So what
those were
about now? Like what is your relationship like with your siblings now and like what are those conversations like?
well, I'm not really as close with my siblings as I would want to be, but like it's like whenever we're together, we don't miss a beat, but we don't really talk on a regular basis. But me and my sister, we still talk a lot about, life, what she's going through and the changes that she's, as she becomes more of a mature adult, she kind of shares her situations and what she think or what I think she should do and things of that nature. And then me and my brother, it's we have those kind of deeper conversations because he's a deep guy, so he's a thinker. So he doesn't really talk a bunch. So if I kind of bring up a topic, he'll really dig in and we'll have a deeper conversation about it. But for the most part, our interactions are me making up for those years of him picking on me, and I pick on him because I'm the bigger physically the bigger out of the two of us. So I kind of pick on him a little bit. But that's really that's
Okay.
really the extent of our relationship now.
So, not that this is your situation, but this is just a question that popped into my head. So, if you connect with a sibling, let's say off of common interests like you and your brother did when you were younger, if you're not having intentional conversations of like really knowing each other, then do you think it plays a part as you get older and you don't necessarily have that thing that you used to in common?
Uh, well, as far as my situation, I would say we still have that same connection, like as far as those same interests, so we could still meet on the middle ground in that. But yeah, I think it could have an effect on your relationship if they come into themselves and you come into yourself and kind of can't really relate on a level. I think that can play a huge role in like how your relationship either gets closer or draws apart as we all get older and have our own families and have our own life situations and things of that nature.
What was pushed in your household? Like what were your parents' wants for you and your siblings? And it did it have an impact on who you are today?
Oh, for sure, it was respect. Respect was a huge one, and then education. It was respect and education. They've pushed us to, do good in school. Anything below average was unacceptable. Uh, and I mean, I'm the one that learned that the hard way because the other two they were great academically. I kind of just slacked off. But yeah, those were the big two was respect and education.
Okay. And what do you think you'll do differently when you become a parent? And what do you think you'll take with you?
Hmm. What I would do? Well, what I would take with me is definitely the respect, and education as well. I would take that, but also be more inclined to let them be themselves and not like because like be more like if they want to be more interested in a trade versus being good in social studies, like I have to pay attention to things like that, not just say you have to learn this because of what. Yeah, I have to be more open with my children because just the way of the world is now has changed from when I was a child. So yeah, the respect and education, that's going to be key. What I would do different, huh? I'd probably just be more transparent at an earlier stage, um, just so they can have a better understanding of how life goes and to be more prepared to walk in this life. Because I would say I learned a lot of, just regular stuff like bills and insurance and things of that nature. I learned that kind of stuff late. Like I didn't learn that stuff in the home. I learned that from, some of my friends who had parents to talk to them about it or things like that. So I would say just making sure that my children are prepared to go out into the world when they're ready to leave my house. So, and that's another thing. I won't say that I was pushed out of the house at 18 because I really wasn't, but I don't want them to feel as though they need to or really need to get out of the house when they graduate high school, like a lot of our families do.
Perfect. I think you answered everything. Everything that I had for you, I think you answered, and I appreciate you joining the podcast today. Do you want to kind of plug yourself so people know where they can find you?
Oh, absolutely. First off, thank you for having me. Anytime you want me on, I'll be on. But as far as plugging, if you want to, I have a podcast of my own called Unc's Corner. If you want to follow that, you can go to my Instagram page, which is Unc's Corner, and that'll be Twitter, Instagram. I'm also uh, a business owner of a dessert company called Unc's Pudding. So that's just a pudding business that I started about a year ago. Um, so if you want to check that out and order, if I'm only in the Omaha, Nebraska area as of now. If you want to check it out, you can go to Unc's Pudding on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Um, I think that's it. I think that's all I got.
All righty. Okay. Thank you for joining us. Have a good one.
All right, thanks a bunch.
All right, I want to go ahead and close out this episode of Earful Conversation Pod. Thanks for tuning in. I also want to plug that I do not own the rights to the music that's included in this episode. Don't want to owe Stevie Wonder any funds because I can't afford it. So, thanks so much for everybody that gave me some birthday love. I really appreciate it. This 33rd birthday is has been amazing. It isn't over yet, so I'm going to continue to celebrate and spend time with family and friends. And we will see you on the next episode.